Good morning, everyone. It is great to be hanging out with you this morning and looking forward to seeing as many faces as I can at worship here in about an hour or so. I hope y'all are having a good week. We are closing out our What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do series today, and be on the lookout for our new series that will be starting out next Sunday. I do hope in the meantime you can join us on Wednesday as we will be in our second week of our series Overflow. We had a good kickoff this past week looking at John the Baptist and how his relationship with God overflowed into his focus on his mission and how that gave him purpose and how he interacted and knew what his role was as God had called him into the family of God, and what his role as messenger, leading the way to Christ, and how that impacted everyone. I had a good time this past Wednesday. Looking forward to another good Wednesday, as well as a good week. I hope you guys are hanging in there. I know everything is kind of weird right now, and I get it. I know things are unsettling at times and uncertain at times, but we have a God who's constant. We have a God who knows and who cares and who understands. So let's jump in, shall we? What to do when you don't know what to do. A couple of years ago, probably 2 years ago, I'd say, maybe even a year ago, Mikey and I were out having some dad and son time, and his favorite place to go eat is McDonald's. And so I decided to take him. I think I got him a McFlurry or a shake or something like that. Spoiled him a little bit, got him his Happy Meal, and got him a special thing. And when I pulled up to the window to pay for our order, lo and behold, the car in front of us had paid for us, and just floored me. That had never happened to me before. It hasn't happened since. And the level of kindness, the selflessness spoke volumes. And Mikey was just like, "Whoa, Dad! Somebody paid for us, really?" And they never asked for any money back. They never asked for anything to be paid back. They wanted to just do that out of the goodness of their hearts, and it still made it. I'm talking about it a year to 2 years later, and it made an impact. Not asking to be paid back is a kind of heartwarming story, and I don't know if any of you have had that experience. One other time would be the family and I went out to eat. We were at a restaurant here in town, and somebody paid for our meal. Now that's six of us, and we like to eat, so that bill was. It wasn't outrageous by any means, but it was still a pretty good meal, being at a sit-down, walk-in, non-fast food restaurant, and somebody paid for us. And it's one of those things that humbles. And they always make for great heartwarming stories when it comes to moment that people don't ask for money back. But when we talk about payback, we also think of the more complicated times. Those times outside of people paying for your food, outside of just giving out of the goodness of their heart, whether it's, hey, we want to give you a ride, or here's a little gas money, or whatever it is. My grandfather was the chief at that, if you will. It seemed like he always knew that I was going to need gas money or something. I'd get an envelope in the mail when I was in college, and it would have maybe a 10 or a 20 or maybe even a check or something, or he'd call and say, "Hey, I put something in your checking account today." And it was never a lot. It wasn't like he just goes, "Hey, here's $5,000. No. But hey, I put 25 in. Just thought you might need some food and gas money, and that light sitting there blinking. I need gas. I'm going to go on strike if I don't get gas. So, those moments are always really, really nice. But it gets complicated when you talk about payback, and especially when you're hurt by someone. Maybe they don't text you back when you think they should, or maybe they um, start a rumor about you or go out of their way to hurt you, or you feel betrayed by an action that they have committed, that you feel like they've broken your trust and you want to get them back. It's in those moments that we've been hurt that we want payback. We want them to feel the hurt, and we want them to feel the pain. We want them to feel maybe the humility, um, the shame that comes with being hurt, the way that they hurt us, and so we want to pay them back. Maybe we don't go all scary movie and just go out and try to hurt somebody. Maybe, we don't go and write a song about it, like every other pop star has ever done. But we try to get payback in one way or the other. And because, if we're honest, we want them to feel the same pain that we have felt. We want them to hurt. We want them to feel the embarrassment or the shame or the just being humiliated like we did. We want them to hurt. And for most of us, this kind of payback that we want comes in three ways. One, it's public. Maybe we throw that one joke out there to get them, just go, you know what, I'm just kidding. Don't worry about it. But you really weren't, and it's said in a way that people know you weren't, but you just cover your tracks by saying, I'm just kidding. Maybe it's passive. Maybe you're just throwing them some shade. Maybe you're posting something and it's just, you're not exactly calling them out, but there's just enough in the wording that people in the know who and what you're talking about. And then we have the imaginary payback. And the imaginary is when we have those magical conversations in our head to where we chew them out, we make our points, and we tell them what for. We go to town, and mentally we have these conversations over and over and over again. And the fun thing about the imaginary conversations, we always win, and they never have a comeback. We always win, and we come out of those times in our head and feeling good, and we're ready to take on the world, but then the world hits us, and we realize, oh, I don't have it quite as together, or things on my side as I thought I did. And then there's the most satisfying payback of all. It's watching them fail. In those moments, it feels like justice, doesn't it? They're trying to walk upstairs and then they fall. They're going through the lunch line and that grape juice spills all over that brand new shirt. Or maybe it's that key play and they commit a penalty. And you just kind of smile. You hate that it hurt your team, but you're grateful the foul happened on this one individual. And the thing that we have to understand is, God's got to work on us when it comes to those things. And I think the more we want payback is determined by how close we are to the person. If we're honest, the closer we are to a person, the more painful the hurt is and the greater the payback we want on that person. And that is exactly the situation that Joseph found himself in as we wrap up our story. And we've been talking about the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis. We've been talking about the kid who was kind of a spoiled brat, the youngest of 12 brothers, and a family that had 2 wives, 4 moms, 12 boys, zero competition and testosterone running around. Yeah. This is a reality series on ESPN waiting for a channel to happen, if you know what I mean. So it's a wild story. So if you're catching this and you haven't seen the other 4 videos, by the way, I'm sorry about the audio last week. Really don't know what happened. I think I fixed it this week. So if you've made it this far, chances are I've got the video ready, good audio wise. So back to the wrap up. Let's get the TLDR on Joseph. One, he was a spoiled brat. 12 brothers, two moms or two wives, four moms to their dad. Okay, two wives to the dad, four moms over the 12 boys. He was having dreams. He was the favorite of the dad. He was given a coat of many colors, and the brothers just did not like him. He kind of got snotty about some dreams he had about how they would bow down to him, and so the brothers plotted to kill Joseph. They saw some traitors coming. Reuben, one of the older brothers, had another idea of, let's not kill him, let's sell him, let's go through all of this rigmarole, and we'll put some blood on the coat, we'll take it back to Dad and tell him that his favorite son got mauled, and we'll be rid of our life of the pest. Meanwhile, Joseph gets sold to this caravan of merchants. He gets sold to a guy named Egyptian named Potiphar. He rises up as a slave in Egypt. He becomes second in charge of Potiphar's house. His wife comes on to him. Joseph says no. Potiphar's wife didn't like that and tried to blame him for coming on to her, which was a lie. But Potiphar still believed the wife, so gets Joseph thrown into jail. You have a couple of other guys, that a cupbearer and a baker, that have dreams, and Joseph interprets, and they get out and the dreams come true, and then Joseph's forgotten. Finally, he comes out of brought into the presence of Pharaoh, who interprets the dreams. Pharaoh puts him in charge of virtually all of Egypt. And then there's the plot twist. After Joseph was second in command, there was a food shortage, just like Pharaoh's dream said there would be. 7-year famine, but Joseph had a plan. He knew it was coming. There was grain stored away, there was food stored away, so that the people could survive. Joseph's dad, Jacob, sent the brothers to Egypt to ask for food because their country was running out and they were starving. And at this point in the story, Joseph's family thought he was dead. They hadn't heard hide or hair of him. They figured he probably got killed or mauled or just died in prison or building something. It was just one of those things. So when they arrived in Egypt and saw Joseph, they didn't know it was him at first, and this whole huge drama unfolded. Go to Genesis chapter 45. Genesis 45. That's where we're going to start off this morning. That's where we're going to be. Hope you have your Bible with you. Joseph could no longer keep his composure in front of all his attendants, so he called out, "Send everyone away from me." No one was with him when he revealed his identity to his brothers, but he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it, and also Pharaoh's household heard it. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" But they could not answer him because they were terrified in his presence. Okay, so the brother they sold that they thought were dead, all of a sudden, through this whole rigmarole about this statue and everything being planted on another brother, was like, I'm terrified. This guy's the second in charge of Egypt. He could have my head or worse. So Joseph was also face to face with his brothers, and all this pain and all this, I'm sure, anger and this bitterness, this hatred was probably swelling up in him. These were the guys that tried to kill him but ended up selling him. I don't know which is worse. His own brothers. And now they were the same ones, ironically, asking him for help. So what would you do? Think for a moment. How would you handle this situation? See, I don't know what I would do. Had all the power. The only person that could trump me was Pharaoh. The only person who could veto, overrule, or tell me I was off my rocker and to do something different was Pharaoh. And I had the whole place under my whim, except for him. I don't know what I would do. So let's move on with the story. As the story continues, Joseph asked his brothers to walk over and stand close to him. Now, I'm sure it just wasn't a leisurely stroll or something high-paced going, it's Joseph, come here, give me a hug, bro. It was just kind of one of those, okay, one step at a time. I don't know if you're going to have a javelin or an axe thrown at us, or if you're just going to say, nah, forget it, off with your heads. I had another dream. We don't know. But here's where we pick up Genesis 45, verses 4 through 7. Then Joseph said to his brothers, please come near me, and they came near. I am Joseph, your brother, the one you sold into Egypt. And now don't be grieved or angry with yourselves for selling me here, because God sent me ahead of you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there will be 5 more years without plowing or harvesting. God sent me ahead of you to establish you as a remnant within the land, and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. When Joseph said, do not be distressed, don't be angry with yourselves for selling me, he was acknowledging their wrong and his hurt without creating additional hurt. He was saying, don't be distressed. Don't be angry for what you did. Let's look back at it. Don't be grieved or angry with yourselves for selling me here, because God sent me ahead of you. He's telling them, don't worry about it. Don't hate yourself. Don't live with regret. God had a plan this entire time. He was acknowledging his hurt and their wrong without creating any more additional hurt. Somewhere, being sold into slavery and being reunited with his brothers, Joseph did the hard work of giving his hurt to God and allowing God to be the central part of his healing. At some point, he came to grips with who God is, with what he is doing, and the role Joseph is going to play. See, forgiveness was not only for his brothers, so that they wouldn't continue to feel bad about what they did, but it was to release the chains that were holding him down. That bondage of pain and bitterness and anger and hatred. He got rid of all of that. Forgiveness was the first step in healing for him personally and his brothers personally, and it also was the first step healing for them as a family collectively. Look at verse 15 of chapter 45. Joseph kissed each of his brothers as he wept, and afterwards his brothers talked with him. He embraced them. He not only said he forgave him, he showed he forgave him. And this is where we see God do the impossible in a relationship to bring peace when there had been hurt for a very long time. There was now peace, and it was all because Joseph chose to forgive. See, when you don't know what to do, pursue peace, not payback. Pursue peace. Jesus said in Matthew 5 in the Sermon on the Mount, or the Beatitudes, blessed are the peacemakers. Paul writes in Romans, as much as it depends on you, live at peace with one another. Do your part. Don't focus so much about winning the case that you burn the bridge. When you don't know what to do, pursue peace and not payback. When you pursue peace, you fight for the relationship. When you pursue peace, you lay down your right to take payback, because it's not our right to take payback. And yes, I know it's easier said than done. It looks good on paper. I understand it's one of those situations, and it's something we have to work at daily. The ultimate benefits for each one of us individually to forgive and to come to grips. Because, see, you not only have peace with them, but you also have peace in you. You know you've done their part. You know that they have forgiven. And you can move on. See, each of us have unique and complicated situations, and figuring out what it looks like to pursue peace is not easy. When there's so much weirdness happening in the world, it's hard to tell. And that's why your family, that's why your small groups are so important. And today's lesson, again, is going to be sent to them. And I hope you take it serious, because it's not too late to get a pineapple. Pray with me. Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the safety tonight, that so far I haven't heard of any issues where people have gone in to be seen. So God, we just ask that you give us guidance and give us wisdom as we encounter the world. And may we always do it with you by our sides. We love you, Father. It's in your name. Amen.